I made a video titled Top 10 Countries Where Black People Are Not Welcomed, a must-watch for Black travelers, and it went viral. A surprising number of viewers asked, why didn't you include the United States? That got me thinking, are there states within the US where Black people genuinely don't feel welcome? Sadly, the answer is yes. And that's what we're exploring today in this video titled, The States Where Black People Face the Most Challenges, with a focus on income, housing, and social disparities. Did you know that in certain parts of the US, Black Americans are over 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than their white counterparts? Or that in some states, the income gap between Black and white households is so large that it would take decades to catch up even under ideal conditions? These aren't just numbers, they're lived experiences affecting where people feel safe, accepted, and free to pursue their dreams. This video dives deep into states with the harshest racial disparities, from economic challenges to social injustices, housing inequality, and beyond. I'm not here to sugarcoat things, but I do want to make it clear that these disparities aren't inevitable. They're systemic issues that need serious attention. So grab a seat and stick around as we unpack the places where racial inequality runs highest. And hey, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's next on Virtual Travel by Brian. Number 10. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's cities, particularly Pittsburgh, showcase some of the most notable racial disparities impacting Black communities. With a population of over 13 million, Pennsylvania has a Black population of approximately 12%, yet their experiences in employment, income, and health reveal significant inequalities. According to Bloomberg, Pittsburgh, while rich in industry and culture, ranks poorly in income equality for Black residents. The median income for Black households lags substantially behind that of white households. Black families in Pittsburgh make, on average, $28,000 annually, compared to $53,000 for white households. That's a staggering gap in one of the state's most prominent cities. With such economic disparity, it's no wonder the state finds itself on this list. Employment outcomes for Black residents also reflect this inequality. The unemployment rate for Black Pennsylvanians is over twice that of white residents, and Black professionals are often underrepresented in high-paying industries like tech and finance. What does this mean for upward mobility and long-term economic stability? Health outcomes are equally concerning. Studies show that Black residents in Pennsylvania have higher rates of chronic diseases, such as diabetes and hypertension, and receive less access to quality health care. Some communities have life expectancies that are nearly 10 years shorter than those in predominantly white areas. So if you're considering the states where Black people face the most challenges, Pennsylvania's data speaks volumes. How is it possible, in 2024, for such glaring disparities to persist? This isn't just about numbers, it's about real lives impacted by systemic inequality. Stay tuned as we reveal the states where these issues are most prevalent, because understanding where these challenges lie is the first step toward change. Number 9. Kansas. Kansas, often celebrated for its open plains and quiet towns, reveals a less idyllic reality when we look at racial disparities in homeownership and income. With a population of about 3 million, Kansas has a Black population of roughly 6%, but the economic landscape for Black residents is far from equal. According to 24/7 Wall Stay, the Black homeownership rate in Kansas lags significantly behind that of white residents, creating barriers to financial stability and generational wealth. While homeownership is one of the most crucial ways to build wealth in America, Black residents in Kansas face striking obstacles. Only about 32% of Black households in Kansas own their homes, compared to around 72% of white households. That's less than half, reflecting a sizable gap in housing opportunities that affects stability and security for Black families across the state. The income disparity is equally concerning. The median household income for Black residents in Kansas stands at approximately $35,000 annually, while white households earn a median of around $60,000. This income gap not only impacts daily living standards, but also limits access to better schools, healthcare, and investment opportunities for Black Kansans. It makes you wonder, how are communities supposed to thrive when such large financial gaps persist? In the states where black people face the most challenges, Kansas certainly earns its place due to these inequities in housing and income. Why is it that a state with so much potential is still grappling with these disparities? It's more than a question of numbers. It's a reality check on the barriers that prevent Kansas from being an equal playing field for everyone. Stay tuned to see how other states compare. Number 8. Michigan. Michigan, with a population of roughly 10 million, has long grappled with racial disparities that continue to impact its black residents, who make about 14% of the population. Despite Michigan's rich history and cultural landmarks, certain economic and social realities paint a very different picture for black communities across the state. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Michigan's median household income for black residents stands around $35,000, while white households earn a significantly higher median income of approximately $63,000. That's nearly double, a gap that ripples through aspects of life like housing, education, and healthcare. When it comes to homeownership, only about 40% of black Michiganders own their homes, compared to nearly 76% of white residents, illustrating a stark disparity in housing stability and wealth-building opportunities. Unemployment rates also tell a story. Black residents in Michigan face an unemployment rate of around 10%, more than twice the rate for white residents. This disparity in employment opportunities contributes to a poverty rate of roughly 30% for black Michiganders, significantly higher than the 10% poverty rate among white residents, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The challenges don't stop there. High incarceration rates further complicate the social fabric for black communities in Michigan, creating a cycle that makes economic advancement and stability all the more difficult. Cities like Detroit, once the beating heart of America's automotive industry, have struggled with economic decline that has disproportionately affected black residents, leading to fewer job opportunities and greater economic hardship. So, if you're watching the states where black people face the most challenges, Michigan's place on this list makes sense. How can one state hold so much promise, yet still wrestle with these inequalities? Number 7. Nebraska. Nebraska, known for its sprawling plains and warm Midwestern charm, has a population of about 2 million, with black residents making up a small but significant 5% of the total. While the state has plenty of appeal, the reality for black Nebraskans can be less inviting. Economic and housing disparities create obstacles that impact daily life, making Nebraska a relevant pick in the states where black people face the most challenges. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for black Nebraskans is around $38,000, while white households earn approximately $63,000. This considerable income gap influences everything from access to better neighborhoods and education to overall economic stability. And when it comes to homeownership, the divide is striking. Only about 32% of black residents in Nebraska own their homes, compared to nearly 72% of white residents. The job market also tells a sobering story. Black residents in Nebraska face an unemployment rate of nearly 9%, which is more than double the rate for white residents. This disparity not only limits income potential, but contributes to a poverty rate for black Nebraskans of around 25%, compared to just 8% for their white counterparts. How can a state known for its welcoming communities still be struggling with such severe inequalities? Additionally, high incarceration rates for black residents compound these economic and social challenges, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. While Nebraska might seem like a peaceful place to call home, these systemic issues raise important questions about access, opportunity, and fairness for all residents. So if you're watching this video, stick around to learn more about other states where racial inequality has a major impact. The goal isn't just awareness, it's sparking change for a fairer future. Number 6. Missouri. Missouri, home to the iconic Gateway Arch and lively music scenes, is also a state where economic and social gaps have raised concerns for black residents. With a population of around 6 million, black Missourians represent approximately 12% of the state. Despite Missouri's charm, it's tough for black communities to find equal footing in a place with a history of racial disparities. In this video, the states where black people face the most challenges, Missouri's story unfolds through a look at income, housing, and employment inequalities. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in Missouri stands at about $36,000, significantly lower than the $60,000 median for white households. This income gap impacts everything from access to quality health care to educational opportunities and financial stability. Homeownership reveals a similar story. While about 70% of white Missourians own homes, only 37% of Black residents can say the same, illustrating a stark contrast in housing equity. Job security is another challenge. Black residents face an unemployment rate hovering around 9%, almost double that of their white counterparts. And poverty rates? Roughly 25% of Black Missourians live in poverty, compared to only 9% of white residents. How is it that a state with such potential can still be grappling with these stark disparities? St. Louis, in particular, has a history of racial tension that has left an indelible mark on the city's housing, employment, and educational opportunities for Black residents. Add to this a significant incarceration rate for Black Missourians, and it's clear why many Black Americans may find Missouri less than welcoming. Before we dive into the next state, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these disparities? Do you think enough is being done to address racial inequality in the U.S.? Drop a comment below and let's get a conversation going. And if you're finding this video insightful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more in-depth discussions like this. Number 5. Connecticut. Connecticut, known for its picturesque coastlines and prestigious universities, hides a reality of economic and social disparities that impact its Black residents. With a population of around 3.6 million, Connecticut's Black community makes up about 10% of the state. In this video, the states where Black people face the most challenges, we look at how racial inequality in income, home ownership, and employment affects daily life for Black residents in Connecticut. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in Connecticut is approximately $47,000, while white households bring in a median income of around $82,000. This stark income gap speaks to broader issues in access to well-paying jobs, and it doesn't stop there. Homeownership rates show an even wider divide. Only about 31% of Black residents own their homes, compared to nearly 75% of white residents. That's less than half, underscoring just how tough it is to achieve housing stability and generational wealth in this state. The unemployment rate for Black residents hovers around 10%, almost twice the rate for white residents, impacting economic stability across generations. As for poverty, around 20% of Connecticut's Black population lives below the poverty line, compared to just 6% of white residents. How can a state with some of the nation's wealthiest communities have such glaring economic divides? With Connecticut's sharp contrasts between affluent neighborhoods and those struggling with economic inequality, it's clear why this state is challenging for Black residents. So as we continue through the list, ask yourself, how can a state known for prosperity do better for everyone who calls it home? Stick with us to see how other states compare and why change is crucial. Number 4. South Dakota. South Dakota, known for Mount Rushmore and vast open prairies, has a population of about 900,000, with Black residents making up roughly 2% of that number. Although small, South Dakota's Black community faces economic disparities that make it one of the challenging states to live in for Black Americans. In the states where Black people face the most challenges, we examine how income, housing, and employment gaps impact the Black population in this state. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in South Dakota is about $30,000, which pales in comparison to the $63,000 median income for white households. That's a significant income gap, affecting everything from access to better neighborhoods and schools to long-term financial stability. Homeownership is another hurdle, with only about 25% of Black residents owning their homes compared to nearly 70% of white residents. That's less than half, and it points to significant barriers in housing accessibility and wealth building. When it comes to employment, Black residents face an unemployment rate of approximately 12%, more than double that of their white counterparts. With limited job opportunities, it's no surprise that nearly 30% of South Dakota's black population lives in poverty, while the poverty rate for white residents is around 10%. These statistics paint a picture of economic challenges that seem far removed from South Dakota's image of wide-open spaces and opportunity. How can a state with so much room for growth struggle to support economic equality? Stick with us as we explore more states on this list. This isn't just about numbers, it's about creating a fairer future for everyone. Number 3. Minnesota. Minnesota, often associated with its 10,000 lakes and vibrant Twin Cities, also holds some of the widest racial disparities in the U.S., affecting black residents disproportionately. With a population of about 5.7 million, Minnesota's black community represents approximately 7%, yet faces some of the most significant economic and social challenges. In the states where black people face the most challenges, we explore how income, housing, and education inequalities impact black Minnesotans. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for black families in Minnesota is around $38,000, while white households earn a median income of about $76,000, double the income. This income gap makes it difficult for black residents to build financial security and invest in long-term assets like property. And when it comes to homeownership, Minnesota has one of the widest divides in the country, with only about 25% of black residents owning homes, compared to nearly 75% of white residents. That's a threefold difference, highlighting barriers in housing equity and wealth building. Education is another area where gaps persist. Black Minnesotans are less likely to hold a college degree, with graduation rates significantly lagging behind those of their white counterparts. This limited access to higher education restricts economic mobility, narrowing career paths that can bridge the income gap. With these disparities in mind, you might wonder, how can a state with such progressive values still struggle so much with equality? Minnesota's mix of cultural richness and economic gaps makes it a place of both opportunity and limitation for black residents. Number 2. Iowa. Iowa, known for its picturesque farmland and friendly communities, also holds a lesser-known distinction: some of the starkest racial disparities in America. Black residents, making up roughly 4% of Iowa's 3.2 million population, face a complex web of economic and social barriers, especially in places like Waterloo. In the states where black people face the most challenges, we unpack Iowa's challenges, from homeownership hurdles to educational disparities. Let's start with homeownership. In Iowa, the homeownership rate for black residents is around 23%, while white residents sit comfortably at nearly 74%. That's not just a gap, it's a canyon. This disparity means fewer black families can benefit from the financial stability and generational wealth that come with owning a home. Waterloo, a city with a large black population, faces particularly steep challenges. Income inequality is clear here, with the median household income for black residents at around $31,000 compared to nearly $60,000 for white households. That's almost half. Education isn't faring much better. High school graduation rates and college attainment lag, creating limited job opportunities and perpetuating the income gap. And then there's incarceration. The black incarceration rate in Iowa is over 7 times that of white residents. An alarming statistic for a state this size. With these figures, you have to ask, how can a place that prides itself on community leave so many behind? While Iowa might seem welcoming on the surface, these realities paint a different picture for its black residents. As we explore these issues, it's crucial to question how these systemic barriers came to be, and more importantly, what can be done to create a state where everyone has a fair shot. Keep watching as we reveal what other states make the list. Number 1. Wisconsin. Wisconsin, famous for cheese, lakes, and football, also ranks as the most challenging state for black Americans according to numerous studies. While it might seem surprising for a state with friendly small-town vibes, the reality for Wisconsin's black residents, especially in cities like Milwaukee, tells a different story. In the states where black people face the most challenges, we're diving into what makes Wisconsin particularly tough. Consider the income gap. Black households in Wisconsin bring in a median income of around $32,000, while white households enjoy nearly double that, at approximately $63,000. This gap limits economic opportunities and leaves many black families struggling to build financial security. Homeownership rates paint an equally harsh picture. Only about 25% of black residents own their homes, compared to a solid 72% of white residents. It's as if the American dream is out of reach for many black Wisconsinites, who face a maze of barriers to property ownership and wealth building. Then there's Milwaukee, where the black incarceration rate is among the highest in the nation, with black residents incarcerated at a rate nearly 12 times that of white residents. This isn't just a statistic, it's a symptom of long-standing issues, from housing segregation to unequal employment and educational opportunities. And, no surprise here, Milwaukee often lands on lists of the worst cities for black Americans. So here's the question. How does a state known for friendly Midwestern values still face such severe racial inequalities? Wisconsin's disparities are hard to overlook, making it an essential entry in our list. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the states where black people face the most challenges. As we've seen, the reality behind these statistics is more than just numbers. It's a reflection of systemic issues that affect lives, communities, and opportunities. From income gaps to homeownership disparities and beyond, these states present unique challenges that black Americans face daily. But the conversation doesn't end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced similar challenges where you live? Or maybe you're in one of these states and want to weigh in. Let's keep this dialogue going, because awareness is the first step toward meaningful change. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our future explorations into social issues, culture, and travel. Thanks again for watching Virtual Travel by Brian, and we'll see you in the next one.